problem is not unique to one part of our state. It is throughout the state. And so our resources should be utilized because we need to save lives. And the Medicaid expansion is going to help us to have services available. But yes, we need our clinical services, we need support. We have like 4 pilot programs existing in the state of Maine where they're looking at what can help individuals so that there's not recurring incidences with them, and how do we get them back into the community. I support all of those things happening throughout the state. We need to develop coping skills. We need to transition these people back in the community and make them working parts of our community. It's not a stigma. It's not something that's bad. It could be grandma who's been on painkillers for a long time because that's the generation that came up. And I found that by working with nursing homes. So it's not those individuals doing drug deals. It's individuals that are our family, and we need to provide those supports and help them out. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I've been pleased honored to be on the front lines of these issues and dealing with the opioid epidemic in many capacities, most importantly, in the Chief Medical Examiner's office in my office. And I believe strongly we need a statewide strategy and statewide treatment centers, including the hub and spokes model that is working in Vermont. I believe strongly that we need Suboxone in every emergency room, medication-assisted treatment, and recovery coaches available at every clinic and every emergency room. I believe strongly that we should have naloxone available to every family who wants it, and prevention and treatment and education programs that really work. I took settlement monies from big pharma settlements and bought a room full of Narcan because the governor kept vetoing these bills. And I've given it out to 80 different law enforcement agencies across the state. And as of last weekend, we've saved 459 lives with that Narcan, because I believe in getting things done. Saving lives is the first step. I've supported Operation Hope. I've supported other programs around the state that are working. Mid-Coast Recovery Center, outpatient treatment centers. They are working. We need more of those, more detox beds and more treatment centers. Thank you.
It was either last July or the July before, we had 24 overdoses in Portland in 14 in 24 hours. We've had over 400 people die last year alone. And I know, I'm sure everybody in this room knows someone who we've lost. We have to expand Medicaid so that we can provide treatment options for people who are low income and can't get access to them right now. It is a very real barrier to entry. But for those of us that grew up in rural Maine, I know I live across the border and across the bay in Mudgee Hill, but I grew up in rural Maine, and this crisis was starting 2 decades ago, and politicians in this state ignored it because they stigmatized addiction, and now we're stigmatizing not just addiction, but we're stigmatizing the treatment protocols. Sanjay Gupta came out a few weeks ago and did a whole series, a whole presentation on how Maine is helping, medical marijuana is helping alleviate the symptoms of opioid addiction, and we need to put that on the table. We need to put safe injection sites on the table. Every community that is hardest hit should have an addiction treatment center with all of those options, including the needle exchanges you mentioned, because if we do not create that safe space, we are never going to address this issue, and that means destigmatizing addiction and destigmatizing the treatment protocols, because too many people are dying.
The number of overdose deaths have increased every single year since Governor Page took over. I strongly support changing the mindset in this state that we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We need to recognize this is a chronic illness and an addiction. The first step is to accept Medicaid expansion funding. Yes, the hub and spoke approach has been the most effective. That's what Vermont's been championing. I strongly support the medically assisted treatment, all of those options, and we have to recognize that we are not going to really make an impact here until we start using all the different resources that are available, the peer-to-peer approach, the medically assisted treatment, the counseling, and it's got to be statewide. We have had groups meet and talk about this. Senator King led a group last year on this to meet with a lot of the folks in the industry about it, and Governor Page didn't even go. And he keeps consistently saying we need more law enforcement. I've sat down with a lot of folks in law enforcement. I was with the chief of police in Presque Isle, and he said law enforcement isn't the problem. We need people to get that's what I lead on as governor. Thank you.
So I just want to, you'll hear a lot of similarities in our answers. I think we all believe in expanding Medicaid to be a part of the approach to drive those numbers down. But just for a moment, 418 people last year. And Adam's right, that is the legacy of the LePage administration. Under his watch, the numbers have climbed and climbed and climbed with no strategy other than his strategy, literally, lock them up or let them die. And who are we as a people if we accept that? This has got to be top priority for any one of us that gets in, and I know that it will be. We have to expand Medicaid. We have to make sure that we're having those tough conversations with our kids. Talk about my kids already. 13-year-old daughter, who's my oldest, never thought I'd ever have to have a conversation with her about not sticking a needle in her arm. And now she won't get shots with a doctor, but that's a whole different thing. A really serious conversation with our very young kids about the dangers of drug addiction. I've heard Mark Dion talk about it. It's a life and death decision every time somebody chooses to put a needle in their arm. We've got to do a better job. In my administration, the markers of success will be the first year that those numbers start to go down, and we can do it.
I agree, and I've been working for 35 years on this. This is a health issue, not a criminal issue. And until we do that, we're not going to ever get our hands around this. But I also think I agree with much of what has been said. But I also think we have to deal with the pain behind the pain. You know, people who have an addiction issue, they have a pain inside that is not just the physical pain that they might have. And that is about mental health.